pressing the go live button, watching it go live. You are now live, it says. And we are live, according
Hey,
to
how's
YouTube.
it going, everyone? Welcome. Welcome to the July 2020 anime podcast for Outpost 1018. How's everyone doing? How's your month been? I hope it's been fantastic. It's been all right for me. Why don't we all introduce ourselves? I am, of course, Neo Tokyo Tempo.
I am Getsuryu, or Josh.
Hola, name's Lewis or Striker, and happy to be here.
Yeah, we unfortunately are down to three people this time. Uh, what should I call him now? He changed his name. Red Aviator, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, could not make it this month. He was just far too busy, and yeah. So we'll try to get a couple more people in for later podcasts. But for now, it's just us three, us loyal three. So yeah, honored.
Yeah.
So this month we watched Vinland Saga, an anime that came out in summer 2019, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
So before
Vinland
the
Saga.
world ended. Yep.
Yeah. So Vinland Saga is pre-catastrophe, um, and it's a show about Vikings of all things, which anime doesn't cover a ton of European stuff in the first place. Or at least it does it here and there, but I don't I don't recall a single like actual Viking anime per se, at least to my knowledge. So I think that's pretty interesting. It follows a young boy named Tors or
Thorfinn.
yeah, Thorfinn. Sorry, that Thors was his dad. Anyway, um, who watches his father, spoilers, get murdered. And he gets murdered by a man named Ashalad. And for the most part, he spends the entire show wanting to kill Ashalad in a fair duel, more or less a revenge plot. Though I find that Ashalad is a much greater driving force behind the show, and most of the show's direction and story revolves around him as well as his development, rather than who's supposed to be the main character, Thorofinn or Torofin. It's hard to like how is the th supposed to be a th or a t?
Oh, it's Thorfinn. It is.
Thorfinn.
Okay,
So
Thorfinn.
one of the things that you'll notice if you like go through all of it, his dad was named Thors. Then there was Thorfinn. And then there's Thorkel.
All right.
Many of them have Thor at the front because they're honoring the Norse god Thor. So just kind of think of it
All right.
that way. So it's Thor and then Finn and then Thor
I
Cole.
I just noticed the pronunciations like of the actors themselves. It seemed to be a T a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah, the Asia.
yeah.
So
But anyway, so I guess okay, and the plot of the show revolves around mostly around the invasion of England by the Dutch,
It was the Danish.
Danish. Yeah.
the Danes.
The
Sorry.
Danes. Yep. Fucking Danes. The scum. No.
Yeah.
Yep.
And and there's a little bit of political intrigue, and we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
let's jump straight into how we usually do it. What do you guys think of the animation?
So this is where I had the most issues with the show. Um, and I will talk about the opening scene, and I will talk about there was an issue in episode 5, and then just the overall. So the opening scene um, has Thor's going into this fight. I'm not going to spoil anything because it's the first episode. Just yeah, it goes into the fight, and you see him jumping boat to boat. You see him going in like these crazy uh, like kills and all this stuff. Um, it goes from this base animation into CGI, and it kind of is jarring at some points. The issues that I had was you'll see him get injured, and like an arrow will go into him, and then you'll see like blood coming out of him, and then two scenes like two like flips later, the arrow's gone, and like there was a lot of that throughout the show, where you would see someone get injured and then that injury was gone. And by the end of the show, they started to shore that up a little bit. So, like, if someone got shot in the leg, then they would continue having that arrow in the leg until you saw them pull it out. And if whenever they pulled it out, you would still see like the blood wound on it. That was a huge issue at the beginning of the show for about the first 10 episodes. The other one was just the CGI being way too overdone. There was a part where they went through 3 different art styles back to back, where it was like this kind of like drawn in, like not well done, like very badly shaded thing into like the normal animation of the show, but like for some reason it was like grainier. And then it went into a CGI cut of like blood flying and splattering, and then it went back into the normal animation, and it was just so jarring that I couldn't enjoy the scene, even though it was supposed to be a very high point.
Yeah,
Um, so there was a lot of that. The other thing is it's very Attack on Titan-esque. The animators are the same studio that did Attack on Titan.
Yeah,
They just
Studio Wet.
yeah, and I've not enjoyed that style very much. I can understand that it works for the European style, but it's not my favorite thing. So just looking at the show visually, wasn't enjoyable until about episode 10, where it kind of like sits in, and then sure like you can see the studio getting better, and probably like the show was doing better, so they were able to put a little bit more funding into the animation, it looked like. But outside of that, like there was a bunch of those issues that I just couldn't enjoy.
yeah. I found the animation to be quite good, at least outside of the fight scenes, for the most part, in like just the normal scenes where people are talking.
I would say that
It was
yeah, I forgot to say
I
the backdrops are amazing, but that okay, go
yeah.
ahead.
The modeling of the characters had a very, nice, fine, detailed look. It didn't look like your average like seasonal isekai. And as an aside, I'm glad to finally be watching an action show that's seasonal. That's not an isekai.
Oh
Dear
yeah,
God. Um,
That is a
Isekai
bonus.
is Isekai is about the same level as Moe shit when it comes to cancer killing anime.
well, it's I mean, we could have a discussion about that like some other time, maybe in another podcast or whatever. But the for the most part, everything's very colorful. Um, Stuff like swords and ships are modeled. Their models are very detailed. Um, and the facial expressions are quite well done.
Oh yeah, especially
Except
Torko. Holy fucking shit.
I found Thorkill's facial expressions to be extremely exaggerated.
Oddly enough, I was discussing it with you guys on the chat, but I pretty much have him as the Joseph Joestar of the series.
The who?
The Joseph Joestar of the series, like old
Who
Joseph Part 3.
who is that?
All right.
You lost us.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me change the.
Okay. Hmm.
But anyway, there's also the fight scenes. I found I found all the hits and slashes and stabs to be very impactful. It really felt like characters got hurt, or when a character's head got chopped off or something. You know, there's a lot of blood, and you can almost feel the blade going through them. I
Oh.
found the characters fighting, like main characters, to be extremely exaggerated, though, to the point of it almost taking me out of the action. It's kind of it's kind of strange watching a someone who's supposed to be a Viking uh having like the skill of like some sort of martial arts master or something like that.
Uh,
Like just be like some like doing all these flips and whatnot. You would expect these warriors to a lot of these warriors to be more overpowering, maybe grappling more and slamming people against walls and stuff. And we did get a character like that,
Bjorn.
Thorkill.
Yeah, I would even say Thor's, the way that he fought, it was very straightforward, but he was very tactful at every single swing. That's
Yeah,
what made him better. You could tell that Thorkel was definitely a stronger fighter whenever it came to brute strength,
yeah,
but Thor's, he was able to read people's fighting stance better. He was able to think through every single motion. He had a
yeah,
better snap reaction. So like that's more of who you would expect to be there. To have Thorfinn just stay like the scrawny boy the entire time. I mean, they said that they were marching for 10 years. And
yeah,
you would expect him to grow up, and especially training every single day, like ready to kill. He should have been as big as his dad.
yeah.
Not
Also,
a,
I found I found Thorkill's I found his combat to be just silly. Like how like he picks up a rock that must weigh like 5 tons and throws it like that. Like no,
and
I
then there's the line. And then there's the logs.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
reason the reason why I call him the Joseph Joestar of from part 3 is because the guy is both old, he's goofy as hell, and Thorkill kind of has the same personality as him in the sense that he's both very optimistic, but he's also a goofy motherfucker.
He more reminds me of like just a normal, like overpowered character that you just want as like pure strength in like
yeah,
any anime. Like I mean, you can just look at almost anything. Like I would look directly to Fate, uh, like the Fate
Can I
series because the writer, I can't remember his name in
uh
Fate Zero.
Makoto? Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
you gotta mention the author. No, Makoto Yuki. Uh,
yeah. So
I never I never say my part with scenery, but it's very varied.
yeah,
From the British Springs all the way to the remains of the Roman Empire to the Icelandic fields. Honestly, not much to say. So you guys already said it as what I was gonna say about it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, in other words,
I
it's as well done as Attack on Titan, albeit on the ladder, I ended up dropping it after season one.
yeah.
yeah.
I will
Um,
say there was a couple visual things done really well. Like one of the things that stood out to me was like whenever the lighting for the cross, whenever they were talking about the religion and how that like portrayed where it was like this very holy moment, and the prince was like scoffing against it. Um, like just a bunch of the visual things were done so well. I think that that's part of the issue is like if you look at each scene, it almost looks from like they're from different animes. Uh, and I have a big issue with that where the peaks were so good, but like the lows were so bad that like it it's so off-putting.
yeah. My biggest issue with the visuals in general is that, and I was sort of touching on this, but I felt the visuals, I felt the fighting and how characters fought clashed with the very grounded storytelling of the show itself.
Yeah, I can see that.
It seemed like it you know the it seemed like the storytelling of the show was kind of more like Kingdom Come Deliverance. But the way characters fought was more like a Final Fantasy game or something, like minus the magic.
Yeah, it yeah,
It tried to be more like Attack on Titan, which, let's be honest, the studio with China tried to make it look have the same success as Attack on Titan, despite the fact the show was exclusively broadcasted to Amazon Japan.
yeah. It's I think one of the things whenever it comes to animation is always going to be consistency, and the show just didn't have consistency. And I think that looking back on it, it's just like the more I'm thinking about it, like I think about like all the great moments, and then I think of all the terrible moments. I'm like, whenever we've reviewed past animes, there's not been a show like outside of like some spoof moments where they wanted to do that, that like consistency wasn't a very important thing. Like the animation can be kind of hokey and like funny, but as long as it's consistent, like who cares, you know? This shows how important just being consistent with your art style is, I think. So,
It it seems like they spent more on the budget regarding the eye candy and less than the consistency.
which is funny because I wouldn't say that there's much eye candy either. Uh, but yeah,
I certainly wouldn't use it as a waifu show.
yeah. Oh
No,
man.
no, not like as in eye candy, as in the scenery and all that. I'm just saying.
Oh, man. Uh, but yeah. I think that we should move on to audio.
Yeah. As far as audio, I have some of the same things to say about the audio that I do about the visuals. Um, I found like when swords and other weapons impact bodies, there's a very there's a very satisfying like sound, like you know, sounds of like flesh getting cut and stuff like that, and it really brings home the damage that these weapons are doing to people.
Am I the
Um,
I hate to interrupt, but am I the other one who noticed the slow mo sounds in some of the closer fights?
They had a few. Yeah.
Because honestly, the slow mo was, in my opinion, one. It was an added touch, but it didn't. But that's saying something.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
um, you definitely can sort of feel the impact of an arrow or a punch or something like that, based on the sound design. Of course, you have some of the classic punching sounds like psh, psh, kind of stuff.
Snapping, the breaking of limbs.
Yeah, there's some good cracking and stuff like that. Stuff with shields being broken. I they added the detail of like the drums tell keeping the rowers in sync for the ships. Um, they in a lot of cities there was quite a bit of hustle and bustle sound effects and stuff like that. Um,
And then there's the situations where people start screaming in fear.
Yeah.
yeah,
I would say just like the voice acting was really well done considering like it's kind of odd, I guess, for like any culture where it's like you're listening to the voice acting and it's Japanese people trying to depict like a Norse accent while talking, and I think they did a pretty fair job considering because
yeah.
it sounded Norse but at the same time Japanese. So like I think that they did a really good job at that. I wish it was
Was
dubbed.
there?
There was no
Oh,
dub.
so there was no dub. All
Yeah,
right.
that's why I watched it
Um,
sub. you know,
Yeah,
um, I was forced to do something now. Um, but on top of that, the screams from the villagers was actually really good. Like anytime that there was a fight, you felt like the fear whenever there was actual fear. You felt like the hits. Like they did all the sound effects. I wouldn't say it was the best job they could do, but I think they did a standout job to a point where I'm not going, wow, that was a really good job, or wow, like this track is really good in the background because there was some music in the background a lot of the time. But on the flip side, it wasn't taking away anything. Like I noticed a few moments where it was like, oh wow, these sound effects are really good, but it wasn't enough for me to be like, this is the best sound effect work I've heard.
uh,
yeah.
Josh.
I found there was there was one annoying glaring issue,
Hmm.
and that really took me out of it with the sound design. And it's more of a writing problem than it is a sound design problem. But uh, when uh, when certain characters were speaking English while other characters were speaking speaking what was
Or
it, Danish?
Yeah.
Danish or French,
What?
they were doing all these dialects instead.
Well,
Well, they
it
weren't.
was.
It was all Japanese,
Yeah.
so they were all speaking the same language, and they were just
Yeah.
saying that they were speaking
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
languages.
That got confusing, and it was Danish, and then it was Welsh, which Welsh is a kind of different version of English.
Well, it
Um,
was Danish, English, and Welsh,
yeah.
and
So
French.
yeah, and then yeah, I forgot about like the French parts. But yeah, it
Uh,
was the Danish
Josh,
and the English mostly, that they kind of deciphered. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to tell you something. Uh, the guy who the voice actor for Thorfinn, Yuto Uemura, was also hero in Don't of France,
Oh, okay.
Really?
and it was also in a couple of tokusatsus, mostly Deca Ranger, which I found very interesting.
Let me see this. Oh, he's in a decent catalog. He was okay, supporting. Yeah, I'm just looking now. Um, oh, he's in Dramatical Murder. He was in Fairy Tale as one of the supporting. Okay, he has a gigantic list. Like this would take too long for me to go through.
Yeah,
Uh,
uh, and
oh,
the same goes with Naoya Uchida, who was Denji Green in Denshi Sentai Dejiman.
yeah. Um, yeah. This is a ridiculously long list. So won't go too far into it, but
Yeah.
I didn't even look at the voice actors really.
I mean,
So
we could cover
I,
it a little bit because, well,
I'm just gonna just scroll through really fast. Yeah, no, they got some pretty decently high names in here. It looks like they got some people from Bleach. They got
got the guy
oh,
was another. They're the same voice actor who did Giorno Giovanna in part of Gold and JoJo's Golden Wing.
so
I
just
knew I okay, I knew his voice sounded familiar. Keisha Ono also played Giorno Giovanna. I was like, holy shit! It's I can't believe that's the same guy.
so what's really funny is the character I was referring to for Thorkill, um, from Fate Zero. He plays him too. So that's probably why he reminds me of him.
Ah,
Hmm.
Akio Otsuka.
Yeah,
Let's see if
yeah.
I know him
So
from some.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, he was Wamu in JoJo. Besides, wait, he was Morrison in Devil May Cry. What the fuck?
Yeah, no, he's one of the better voice actors, and his list is.
He
I'm
wasn't.
still
He
scrolling.
wasn't in the Devil May Cry anime, was he?
No.
But he was again. He was also Big Boss.
Hey,
And
hey, just
Akira
because
Os-
you get a shitty job and then you half-ass it does not. Ugh.
Akira Otsuka was also Big Boss in the Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Uh,
they actually got a really good cast. It looks like going through this. It did look very well produced whenever it came to like money wise. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if
oh, Josh.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Oh, he was Solid Snake. Akira Otsuka was Solid Snake in all the Metal Gear Solid games. Same
Yeah.
guy who played Torko. Holy shit!
Yeah. And I mean
Yeah, this is great.
like the guy who played what's his name? Wow. Aslid. I mean he was Toby or Madara in Naruto. So I mean like you can go through this and just see like Japan just has some of the best voice actors to begin with, and we're gonna continue like they're gonna continue recycling them, and
Yeah.
they're just gonna keep getting better and better the more time things go on. So I think we could probably move on to the plot, which I we should probably separate this into three parts. So we'll talk about like the beginning, well, like the Thor and Thorfinn kind of like arc, and then once Asalod, like once we get more into him where he is like the main character, we'll talk about that, and then whenever he meets up with the priest, I think that we can talk about those three specific arcs.
I can, I will start the Thorfinn childhood, Thorfinn's association with Ashkelad when up Prince Canute
Is he
for
cutting
the.
out for
Yeah,
you?
he's cutting out for me.
It's kind of for me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say the childhood years, the
Oh man, he's
Ashkelad.
cutting out.
Yeah.
You're cutting out
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Here, I'll try talking. Can you maybe try and figure out like what's going on while I go? All right.
And then we have
Hold on.
the Canute.
I don't think he heard us.
Okay, so I muted him for the stream, but Mike is
All right.
cutting out.
All right. So, how are we gonna
All right. So all right, I
how are we
unmuted him.
gonna fix this? All right. We'll
All right.
unmute him in like in like a minute,
All
and
right.
we'll let him talk. But anyway,
All right. So I'll go in the detail. So the beginning arc with Thorfinn and Askeladd, I I thought that was probably the weakest one.
You mean
Um,
Thor, Thorfinn,
Thorfinn,
Thorfinn and
and
Thor's?
Thor's, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
his dad was interesting, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Going into the fight, and it never panned out. It just couldn't get like he couldn't. It, you expect something to happen, and it was like, okay, there's gonna be all this setup, and his dad's like, don't go for revenge, don't do this, and then it like you see that morph into like he's just going for revenge and he's ruining his entire life. Um,
yeah,
and it just it was so horrible to like watch that, where like you're hoping that this very drawn out, this very boring setup, like you want to get like an understanding of the land, understand the characters, you want to understand like how their lives are, and then it just shits on you, and I was like, this sucks, you know?
yeah. It's kind of a strange. It's kind of a strange thing to just set all of this up and have it really just at the end of the day be the justification for Thorkill to not be for Thorkill to want revenge, and
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. So, um, okay,
So
all right.
regarding Thorfinn's motivation for revenge, well, I'll be honest with you. If I saw my dad getting killed in front of me like that, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, but would you chase someone for 10 years? I mean, like, it's a little too drawn out, and then it was also like he had those moments where like he was sitting in the ship, and then his dad was like, "Why are you going for revenge?" Like there was like all of these moments that basically said, "Hey, stop it," and
yeah.
like he was told stop it, and then like he couldn't beat him after like all of these times of trying, and he would just get emotional every single time. It's like he didn't learn. There was no arc. There was no growth until the last episode. It's just that it's so unrewarding, and it was just I hated it.
Well, even in the last episode, it's not really character development because what does he do? He just lashes out again.
Well, he kind of does, but at the same like, and I can understand that, but at the same time, it was like you saw him drop the weapon, and like you saw him start to cry. Like you saw him finally let his emotions go more, right? Like it wasn't rage, it was actual sorrow.
So
Um,
according to what I remember, he was going to train because Askeladd kept pushing his shit in every time he tried to do with him. I'm not sure. I'm not.
You're cutting
yeah,
out
he's
again.
kind of I'm not sure if it might just be just a little bit. He has a big storm over him, so there might be a chance
No,
that
no, no.
we're
It's
losing.
not that. The thing is, I was just push to talk.
Oh, okay, yeah, don't do that. Okay,
Yeah, I was just push to talk, and then the bun decided to go ape shit.
okay.
Would I chase a guy who killed my dad in front of me? No, unless I were to trade. I mean, the way the guy tried to do it was actually he. I'm guessing the guy tried to sneak up on him several times. Like there was even that scene in the bed where he tried to IRL Minecraft him into a. How do I say this? He was gonna kill him.
Yeah, it was a lot of like he wanted to like sneak up and kill him like in the bed, and then he's like, I only want to do this honorably, like my dad. Yet his dad was telling him, hey, don't do this. Put down the sword. A warrior actually doesn't need a weapon. Um,
Yeah, I do realize that the guy didn't want to fight anymore.
yeah. So it was, it's so like just this one plot point right here. Like this is why I don't like this character. Like the rest of the show was so well written, yet this one plot point just drives throughout. He wants to be an honorable warrior like his father. He wants to only kill this guy in a duel being honorable. Yet his dad told him, don't seek revenge, don't pick up a weapon, no one is actually your enemy, you don't need to kill anyone ever. The only time that you should ever pick up a weapon is to protect yourself. That's the only time. And even
Yeah.
then, you really don't need to.
I,
And
I, I just found him to be kind of uninteresting because all he really does for the most of the show is just grimace and snarl and
yeah,
swing his
it,
knives
it's
around.
it's so. If he wasn't in the show, I wouldn't have noticed. Like, I
Yeah,
think that if you remove him from the show, outside,
remove the
like,
main character,
well,
mind
yeah,
you.
well, I wouldn't even call him the main character, honestly.
Or he's supposed to be.
Yeah, but like, if okay, you don't even need to remove him. You just make him an assassin for Aslard. Yeah, Aslard.
Escalade.
Askeladd. Fucking. There went my brain. But if you just made him an assassin for him, it would have changed the entire dynamic of the show. And you could have easily said it's like, hey, this guy wants to just be honorable, and he wants to kill me in a one-on-one duel because I killed his father in a one-on-one duel, and he wants revenge that way. And he's just traveling with me in training until he gets his revenge. And it's like, yeah, shut up, and then like bitch him off, right? Like that would have been an interesting character. Like it would have been an interesting side character. It's definitely not a main character though. Like,
Yeah.
so
Like I feel like he would have been like like better in a role that's kind of like Askeladd's number 2 throughout most of the show.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it would
his
have been
right
his
hand
number
man.
three. Yeah, Bjorgen.
Yeah,
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 like
yeah,
if him and Bjorgen were on the same level, done. Like that. Congratulations, you have a good show.
yeah. And
Oh,
just make the show about Askeladd because he's more interesting anyway.
Yeah, and I mean you can even have the setup and then just have like Thorfinn like become part of it, which I think they were trying to do, which is like you understand like the Norse thing and then like you understand like what's going on a little bit more, but like you don't have Thorfinn become anything more than that.
I'll I'll be honest with you. The three most interesting characters would be Torkel, Askeladd, and straight up Bjorn because Bjorn is more like a berserker.
Uh, mm,
Like the dude pretty much fights eating shrooms and goes on a fucking rampage.
yeah, but there was more interesting characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And Canute was unironically the most feminine of the characters in the show.
yeah.
Fuck me, he was more feminine than his own sister, than Torkel's sister. Like, goddamn,
Yeah.
Thorfinn's sister. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've beaten this arc into a pulp. We can move on to the better arc with Askeladd. Um. So what do you think of that? Like where?
I think Askeladd is a very well written, multi-layered character with a lot of internal and external conflict that keeps the viewer quite engaged and interested throughout his entire journey.
Yeah. Like I couldn't. I had the hardest time watching the first 6 episodes of this show. Like it took me probably 4 days to get through these 6 episodes. Like I was forcing myself through them. And then the second it got into this arc, hooked. Like watched 12 back to back, like nonstop. Just loved it instantly.
Dude, real shit regarding Askeladd's past. Oh man, his past is pretty dark.
Yeah, he had a good past where his mom was a slave, his dad was a king. He had connection
Training. He was
to
trained.
everything. He had training. He had correct training as well, where he was learning how to fight. And then he had a revenge where he killed everyone. and then he had a link to his homeland that he wasn't actually raised in really until he was uh, a little older, and
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
like
He is. He's interestingly enough half Danish and half Welsh.
yeah,
Oh, and
And
as a side note, that part where you see his backstory,
mhm.
that's told in only one episode,
yeah,
unlike Thor's or Thorkill's or no Thorfinn's backstory.
yeah,
Too many Thors.
yeah. So I mean, it was just a better written character. His backstory was well condensed. You understood why he got his name. You understand like where he comes from. You understand his motivations, and then you can also see the years and years and years of experience with every single step that he takes. Like not only was he amazing at fighting, he was also amazing at tactics whenever it came to war in general, and then he was also really good on a political level where he was able to talk political game and get what he wanted without fighting. So I thought that you have this
he was also
character
he
that
was also a good historian, especially on that episode when he talks about the Roman Empire.
yeah, it
Yeah,
And
was it was just
and
crazy how well layered he was, where he understood everything. Like this is a character that you would almost pull out of like Game of Thrones, and then you throw him into an anime, and it just didn't fit as well.
and then there's the very interesting part where he claims that he is the last ancestor, like the last descendant of Lucius Artorius Castus. In other words,
King
King
Arthur.
Arthur.
Yep.
Now, there is another historical character. Well, let's be honest with ourselves. I want to talk about Leif for a bit. I want to talk about how the Leif in the anime is actually based on Leif Erikson, the first man. Well, the first man to ever set foot in America.
Yep.
And well, the thing is, Vinland. It's supposed to be like no parts of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, Canada. So basically, he went to Canada, came back to Iceland, and it was more of a merchant, really.
yeah. Um, Now the anime is called Vinland Saga, and going into it, I was really expecting there to be a voyage to Vinland. After all, it's called Vinland Saga. Um, and
For,
I figured, I saw a lot of sailing in the trailers. Going to, I figured it was going to be about a group of Vikings going to Vinland. And there was really none of that. In fact, you could have removed all references to Vinland and probably Leif in and the anime wouldn't have changed much.
I
it,
mean, you could
it
probably
was
just
straight up
remove.
false advertising
Yeah,
more than anything else.
you could remove the majority of the like Nordic characters. I believe they were from.
Iceland,
What was it?
Norway.
Yeah, Norway. Yeah, so like they were from Norway. If you took away all the Norwegian characters, it would be just a Danish versus England thing, and Vinland wouldn't even be involved. The thing
And
is, like,
it
the Vikings at that time were kind of split into the Danish, the uh, Greenland group,
this
and then you had like the High Nordics in like Finland and Norway and all that.
all
And
Scandinavia.
yeah,
And then there's the arc with the Franks, which were supposed to be the French.
yeah. So
I'll
you have
be
all of that, and I think they were trying to like say it's like, hey, the Vinland Saga was going on during this time, but yeah, there was also this giant war, and it's like, okay, well, we can just talk about the war. We don't need to talk about the fact that uh, Greenland and Norway were on their way to try and find Vinland, because the Danish were like, hey, let's just go fuck up England. Like that's what the anime is about. It's about that we're not getting any of the Vinland from the other two regions of the
So
Vikings.
I'm checking out the wiki real quick, and in regard, as or something. Askeladd, according to the trivia in their fandom wiki, Askeladd is named after the Norwegian fairy tale character Askeladden.
Hmm.
Askeladden appears in many stories and is the youngest son that no one expects anything from, but in the end, he's the one who succeeds. Usually not through brute strength, but by wits, a dose of luck, and some trickery.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, if you look at like the Wikipedia page, it says that like this is taking time during the saga of Eric the Red or the saga of the Greenlanders, which is the Vinland Saga. It, but that's just the time
True.
period. It's so weird that like they're just using it's like the Vinland Saga is going on, but also like, hey, here's the war that has nothing to do with Vinland. Like that I think that that's the biggest issue that we're gonna run into whenever it comes to the name. Is there
Yeah,
was
Vinland in the show seems to be almost kind of a religious thing
yeah.
where like warriors who die go across the sea to rest in the west.
So basically, it would be like their own version of Valhalla
So okay,
in a way.
I know a little bit of this. So one of every four people that died would go to Valhalla. The rest of them were suspected to go to Vinland. So Vinland was the very peaceful, nice place. Valhalla was the warrior, the champion. So you had a chance of like if you died in battle, you went to Valhalla and uh, you got to fight every single day, and you're a real warrior, and you proved it. But if you died in battle and you weren't considered a real warrior, you were sent to Vinland and lived this very peaceful farm life, with the Viking lore actually. So it's like, hey, you're either going to become this awesome, like I'm gonna fight things, or you just plop into this farm and live a very nice life. Like one of those two is about to happen to you. Yeah, which is why they were seeking Vinland. And then that's yeah, there you go. Anyway, um, so outside of that, uh, outside of the name, I guess is there anything else we missed outside of the last arc?
Um, no, not really. I think we can talk about the last arc.
Yeah.
Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Uh, spoiler warning.
People die. All
If,
right.
yeah, yeah. If people die, the end.
All right.
uh,
Uh, I hope
well,
everyone has a good month. All right, goodbye.
see ya. All right. I want to talk first and foremost about the absolute unit that is fucking Torko. Holy fucking shit, this is ridiculous. Every time I watch an episode with that guy, I'm just like, what the fuck is he doing next? This guy's ridiculous. And then I see him.
I quite liked his personality. He really cared about the fight in and of itself more than anything.
He was what a Norse warrior you would expect. You want him to be a fierce leader. He's in it for the fight. He told people it's like, "Hey, you're about to die. Pick up your weapon so that you make sure that you go to Valhalla whenever we slaughter you." Like
Don't be
the
don't be a
dude,
bitch, dude. I don't
yeah.
like bitches. I want to fight you.
Yeah, like the one guy he went up and like the guy rebelled and took over leadership, and he's like, "All right, here's your battle axe. You're about to fight me. Come on, come attack me so that I make sure that you go to Valhalla, but you're gonna come at me." And the guy dies of fear. Like just standing, just drops the axe, dies. It's like, oh, he's out.
Yeah. Oh, you mean you mean that guy's his brother who like becomes
I think he passes out.
Oh right. I think I was thinking about the other one who
No,
got intimidated by the dude's size by the point that he literally loses his fucking mind.
no, that guy died. There was a different guy that was the brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they show the brother that like he got hit in the head during a battle, and he started to like he had like a brain aneurysm or something, and like
Yeah.
he's like he doesn't have much time. Just go onto a farm. But the other guy, like you see them slaughter him. So
Oh, what about the guy who got literally sliced up in half
yeah,
by
right. Yeah,
Askeladd? Oh
Yeah.
lord, that was
Yeah.
one hell of a moment.
yeah. So, but just to kind of talk on that final arc, like it was whenever things started going bad, and you saw like it's like okay, all the choices that I made led us to this point, and now I have to be super careful, and then things started to slowly fall apart. And I think it was played out as good as it could have been for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he made it further than anyone should have.
The fact that the fact that half the story was focused on Prince Canute and his guardian, uh, his guardian's name Ragnar. That's the guy.
Yeah. I found Canute. I found his development to be a little jarring. Like Canute initially was a very timid boy, and like to the point where he'll literally physically hide behind Ragnar. And as the as the show progressed, he did start like having arguments with
His
Thorfinn,
dad. He also
um,
yeah.
and stuff like that. And you see him breaking out of his shell a little bit, and then all of a sudden he has a realization, like an intellectual realization, not like you know, and he all of a sudden becomes the most fearless man like on the planet. Like you cannot scare this guy.
He's seen some real shit. So at this
But
point,
it seems to happen like at the snap of a finger. It's it's not it doesn't seem earned. It seems like it's completely rushed.
Yeah, it was him.
they basically handed it to him in a silver platter,
Well,
basically.
uh, he had like 3 steps where he went from like he was quiet, and then he took the first step where he would start to talk back a little bit and defend himself a little bit, and then his bodyguard dies, and he gets a little bit more cold, and then there's
And
one last step whenever he goes fuck God, basically.
Yeah,
And
he turns in. He goes full Nietzschean.
yeah, so it's just you can see the progress at least, where it wasn't just like a switch turned on, but it was like so rigid that it felt forced, which
Yeah,
it might have been, but it's also the position that you're put in with your back against the wall, and your only form of protection is now gone. You know.
yeah. I think the show would have done better if instead of focusing on Thorkill or Thorfinn,
Mm-hmm.
instead that time was spent with what was his name again?
Canute.
Canute.
Yeah.
Sorry. I keep wanting to call him Conti or something.
Yeah, if you would have took out the first 6 episodes, put those to like
and
2,
really,
and then like had that kind of like an introduction to like how strong Asgard is, where it's like you see like Thor's being like this crazy good strong
you
character.
just say Aslard again.
Whatever. Asgard.
Ford.
Yeah. But like if you took Thor's and just made him as strong as he is, and then you have someone take him down, and then it's like, okay, this is where the anime starts. He captured his son, but here's where the anime starts, because you can tell it's like we built up this strong character, this strong crazy guy. It's like this guy is definitely the strongest Viking that you've ever seen, and now he's dead.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's like instead of focusing on like the point I'm making is like
yeah,
instead of focusing on the revenge plot
yeah,
and having that be like the main arc of the show,
yeah,
instead focus on Canute and have his arc be the main arc of the show.
yeah.
Um
It would have been more interesting. I was saying
yeah,
it's like
it would have you would have had enough time to spend on Canute
yeah,
and not had his development be so sudden and
yeah.
jarring. And
I
on top of that, that would drop the dead weight of Thorfinn's revenge plot, which is ultimately uh, inconsequential
entire
to
show.
all the rest of the arcs of the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, more of what I was trying to say was it's like if you would have taken those 6 episodes, turned them into 2, and then just switched the like plot to a different plot a little bit, just taking out Thorfinn altogether and just make him like a basic assassin that's getting dragged around, right? Um,
You
then
guys
you
want
would
to
have
hear
had
my?
4 episodes to make Canute like develop, and then you would have gotten more out of it. So
Uh,
I think that there was definitely a structural issue um, from the show, and just yeah, this feels very much like I'm talking about fucking Sword Art Online right now, where it's like everything is good about the show except Kirito, and I fucking hate Kirito, and he needs to like that's how this sounds right now. Like,
fuck Thorfinn. All my homies hate Thorfinn.
yeah, but like you get what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
like what we're saying. It's just this character is just so bad that he's ruining an entire show that could have been so much better without him. You
Well,
know?
it's not that the character is bad. It's that the character is one, not main character material, and two, he, he's just not in a position where like his plot is directly involved in like the main plot of the show.
Yeah,
It's more like a side character subplot,
yeah,
like B plot or something.
yeah. I agree with that. But yeah, no, I'm just I just the more I think about it, like even like the final moment was just so badly done, and I was like that, like it, and just for the people that are listening, the final moment of the show, I won't spoil it for you. The first half of that episode, even the first 3/4 of that episode are so good, and Thorfinn ruins the last 2 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
like, and yeah, it's so bad. Just those last 2 minutes, it just ends on like this horrible note, even though everything else was amazing. Um,
That feel
all right.
when you spend 10 years of your life training just to find out that someone else did your job.
Yeah.
You wasted 10 years here. Well, you were
So
trained, yes.
someone, yeah, and it's kind of annoying because like the last like 5 episodes of the show with all of the political intrigue and all of that is way more interesting than any of the stuff about battles and whatnot. Um, and even like the clever way uh Askeladd defeats his opponents and on the battlefield
Hmm.
is not even close to how interesting Askeladd and Canute playing politics is.
Well, that's the thing is like Askeladd, uh, Clute, and then the King are all like you can see it's kind of like a final boss where like you can see where it's getting harder and harder and harder, and then he hits the final boss, and even though it's not a fight, it's still a mental game. It's still like it's an actual like fight at the end where he needs to figure out the puzzle, and it you can see how much more challenging that was for him. Like they made like that brain moment where like he's thinking every single situation through, and he comes up with this mad plan at the end that in a way works, but in a way doesn't. Like it just uh,
Yeah,
there's not much more to say about it without ruining it. It's just that was like I don't like ruining the final moment of a show too much, but um, yeah, that was it was so well done, and then like the last 2 minutes just it just shits on it. So
yeah.
uh, I
Um,
don't want to beat that horse too much more.
yeah.
No,
So
no,
we've give your take real quick.
all right. I think I'm. No, the other thing is, the only guy who actually devotes his life to actually finding Thorfinn is Leif himself, because according to him, he was taken to Vinland, and yet, well, his sister or nobody else in that village never bothers to actually.
We don't even know. That's the issue. Is like we don't know.
We don't
They
know if
Yeah.
they even
they
care or.
they had
Well,
the last snapshot moments at the end, and like I had no idea what was going on, and I think it was Leif making it to Vinland. I'm not even sure, but
Yeah, it was Leif taking Thorfinn and his mother
it,
to
it
to
didn't
Vinland.
it didn't help that the aspect ratio of those last shots were was limited to what could be reflected onto a dagger.
yeah. And then also like I think like they had someone with like Bjorg's hair color on the boat at one point too, and I was just so confused. I don't actually know what happened. So
Yeah,
I think maybe Bjorg went with them to Finland. Like I have no idea. I really wish I did, but I have no idea.
all
So
right.
But
Anyway, we've hit the hour mark,
yeah, so
and I think we've really, like, ordinarily we'd shift from plot to characters, but
we talked about
we
all the
kind of
characters in
talked.
the plot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that we should do our final takes, wrap ups, and ratings.
yeah. Um,
So why don't you start?
so I hated the opening, and the last 2 minutes like were so ugh. But the middle was so interesting that like I just dove into it. I watched basically from episode 6 to 22 in like a day and a half. Like it was that intense for me where I was like, okay, I have to get all of this done. Um, and I loved all of that middle part. Like I can easily say that there was at least 16 good episodes from episode 7 till the end. That there was at least 16 solid, amazing episodes that if it was on its own, I would probably give it a 9. That being said, that those other episodes just it brought the show down. The last 2 minutes brought the show down. Um, a lot of the animation in the beginning, it's just it's so hard to force yourself through that beginning that I feel like I have to give it probably a 7.5 for it. That being said, just the historic parts, the um, middle arc, the ending up until the like last moments, it's all so solid that even though I'm giving it a lower score than I want to, I still recommend it. And that's how I'm gonna put it.
All right.
All right. It took me 2 days to actually watch the show, and frankly, how should I say this? I found the setting interesting because not many animes discuss Nordic lore or anything related to Scandinavia, and that would be Norway, Iceland, and Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark. Anyway, rarely have I ever seen an anime uh, about Vikings that was actually this entertaining. I personally found it entertaining, but it had these moments that were just there were some holes in the plot. Like what happened to Thorfinn's mother? What happens to the village? What happened to everyone who? I mean, this is one of those shows that you would end up reading the manga, which is to this day still being made. It's 161 volumes, last I checked. Uh, Otherwise, Josh said it best. The beginning had its moments, especially the minutes between Thorfinn and Leif. I'll be honest with you, Leif is one of my personal favorite characters in there because he was more like the grandpa character more than anything else. But then after Thor's death, his Thorfinn's fate was sealed when he joins Ashgalad, and well, it all keeps slowly building up until the Britain arc. And the ending, well, I'll be honest, I was actually a bit disappointed by the ending because you spent 10 years chasing the guy who you wanted to beat in duel only to.
Spoilers.
No, yeah. I'm not gonna say anything else regardless. So this show was slept on, like straight up. A lot. I heard the first time I've ever heard about the show was a live stream. That was it, a live stream, and then I after that I checked it out. All right, I'm gonna make this TLDR. If you're into Norse mythology and Vikings, do check it out. Frankly, um, the fact that it's made by the same people who animated Attack on Titan was actually an interesting touch. But the thing is, it has no dub. It has no English voice actors. You could only catch the show through Amazon. So, 7. Yeah, it's a 7, really. Uh, the chances of it's an underrated show, but ultimately, it's not for everyone.
All right. So the way I see it, um, I think this show is strongest near the end, and really right up to the end. I think all three of us have mentioned that's not very interesting in the beginning. Thor's is almost good enough to carry the beginning, but not quite, and as a result, it's pretty boring. And Thorkill or Thorfinn is not an interesting character, and his plot is kind of dead weight to the show. It's ultimately inconsequential to everything else that's happening. It really his plot is just an excuse to get him there, more than anything else, and it seems kind of forced. He doesn't. It doesn't seem like this character. It doesn't seem like the writing has put this character in as a natural result of the events in the show. It seems like he's shoehorned in, and it's not quite that bad, but it it's definitely you could drop him and not change much, and then and that removes screen time from other characters whose arcs are more important to the events of the show, uh, who could be getting more development, and while none of that is is a plot hole or contrivance or anything like that that would bring this into the territory of a really bad script. It is a big mistake. Why if Askeladd's arc is more important to what's actually going on in the show, why isn't he the main character? Or Canute, why isn't Canute the main character? Why is the show not starring Askeladd and co-starring Canute, and with Thor's being supporting? And it seems like a missed opportunity. It's just it seems like the writers, whether or not this is a problem in the manga, I don't know. I'm not reviewing the manga, but it seems like the writers failed to step back and look at the script and think about what's really important. The character that they dreamt up and initially wanted to write a story about, or the character that's actually impactful on the story. And a redraft of the script with Ashkelad being the main character would probably make the show like an 8 to 8.5 out of 10. As it stands now, I can't give it that. Plus, with the forgettable music and animation mistakes and yada yada yada, I give the show a 7.
There is a silver lining. If you guys want to hear me say it,
What's that?
it's at least it's more interesting than Game of Thrones.
Is it? I've never seen Game of Thrones.
If you want to just really quickly debate that, it would just be the beginning of Game of Thrones was way better, and then it drew you in the ending of Game of Thrones whenever they actually had to write on their own without George R.R. Martin. That's whenever it went to shit. And we don't really need to get into that, but I mean, like, no one's gonna debate the last 2 seasons were complete crap. So this was a bad start with a good middle and a kind of crappy ending. But I was looking at, like, because you did bring up the manga, it looks like this is only like the first half that's been done. So maybe there's a second season and maybe there's a redemption arc, but it's kind of hard to see a redemption arc for Thorfinn now going forward. But there could be something. Who knows?
Nothing change.
Yeah. Well, it's not like Thorfinn like did anything. Well, okay, he did evil things, but like evil things that like all the Vikings do.
Yeah.
All
right.
It's not. Oh yeah. We gotta wrap this up.
Let's just do the score. So we gave it a 7.1 7.16. Probably with RJ, it would probably be like a 7.5. Honestly, he would have gave it. He could not keep talking about how good this anime was and like how much he loved it, but he also was just reading the manga, so maybe the manga's just that much better. Uh, but compared to the MAL, which gave it an 8.74, and IMBD, which gave it an 8.8. We're
That's
way off.
yeah, that's interesting. Review scores on these aggregate sites tend to trend towards the average.
So they trend towards the average if people are interested. So if you're going to put out a very niche show, which this very much attracted a very niche audience, they have very low, like they have a high rating but low user popularity, I guess. Well, on MAL, it's pretty high, but on IMBD, it's really low for how many ratings. Um, Whenever you have a niche audience, you get the same thing as what happened with other animes, where it's the niche audience just wins out.
What was the score for Devil May Cry anime again?
I think we gave it like a 5.
Well,
Oh,
like
wait.
Well, we
what
gave
was-
it like we gave it like a 5.5, and it ended up like a 7 on the site. Because
Yeah.
people like, all the
yeah,
hardcore fans loved it.
yeah.
And,
But
and
even though the show was completely abysmal.
Yeah, so you're still gonna get that.
we also gave Inspector like a very low score, and apparently had a higher score in some of the sites.
Yeah. We didn't give it that low of a score, didn't we? Give it like
yeah,
a
we
7
were
point
actually
something.
pretty. Yeah, we're pretty close.
Like a 6.
Uh,
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think those people are shales.
Yeah, they gave it. They gave it a 7 on MAL for
No, let's not
Spectrum.
accuse let's not accuse the literally thousands of people of being shills. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's a joke, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
I think that wraps this up. I think that's
I
where we're
hope,
gonna end this.
I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. I hope everyone has a good month. Have a wonderful rest of your summer. We'll see you again at the end of August.
We do know what the end of August podcast should be, so we can announce that right now too for the people that made it all the way through. Do you want to do that?
Why don't you do it?
All right, so we're gonna be watching one of my old favorites. We're gonna be reviewing Angel Beats, which just great anime. Maybe it hopefully lives up to what I remember. But it's kind of like a comedy. It's a mix of a lot of things, and it's gonna be very interesting, and it's gonna be a fun time reviewing that one because that's a very chaotic anime too. So
a lot of people did talk that said that the show was they had a lot of high praises about Angel Beats Online.
All right. Good night, everyone.
So we'll get
See
into
ya!
that next